Namaste and welcome to India Calling. Stories from spiritual travelers from across the globe. Today we have with us Julie Upton. Julie is not the typical yoga teacher who found India. She is a former Buddhist teacher who had turned Sadhu devotee, Ayurvedic practitioner, and also a Hindi speaker. She has attended Kumbh multiple times. And let's dive in and start understanding more about Jwala Bharati.
Namaste ji.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Great.
So, how did it all start, Jwala? How did Julie became Jwala Bharti?
So that was not expected. I originally went to India because one of my Buddhist students wanted to do a documentary on something called the Maha Kumbh Mela, and I had never heard of it. So he explained it to me, and I offered my skills because I used to work in video and television production, and I knew he didn't. So I had experience with doing this work. So I said, hey, if you need any help with that, I can help. And immediately I had a knowing that I was going to India.
Wow.
But I was living in Germany at the time, so I had a lot going on there. I had students I was teaching. I had an upcoming month-long solo silent retreat. And then afterwards, I needed to do a big fire puja because it was my fourth. And on the first and the fourth, I had to do a big fire puja. So I didn't really have time to think about India. But when I got in my retreat, my silent retreat, I remember thinking, if I don't think about India for a minute, it's going to take over my mind when my mind starts to rest, because the mind loves to wander. It loves to think about things. It loves to stay busy. And at that time, I had a Kindle, and I turned on the Kindle and I just did a search for spiritual India. And what I learned in that search was that they're very sacred places of the Buddha's life, 4 to be exact. And I like structure, so I also like non-structure, but I like structure. And I thought, I read the prologue to 4 different books. I took some notes. I said, I'm doing that when I go to India. I shut it all down and I did my retreat perfectly. And to answer some Naga questions, the Naga Sadhu questions, I'd already been connected to the Naga energy, which is the water beings. I have lots of stories about that way predating India. And during this retreat, when I was out of the retreat, you put up boundaries. So when I took the boundaries down and I was exploring in the woods, I found a river. And I was meditating by the river, and the Naga energy came to me. And so Naga energy comes to me a lot. Still to this day, I live across the street from a very large body of water. And wow. So so then I got out of my retreat. I did my big fire puja. The whole village came. It was crazy. And also the student that I went to India with. And a week later, I was on a flight from Munich to Delhi.
Which year was this? When did your India journey start?
2013. I went,
2013.
so he wanted to do a documentary on the 2013 Maha Kumbh Mela. Okay, so I did my retreat. It started in December and ended in January. So I was in retreat during that big 2012 energetic shift that people think was real. I was sitting on the top of my retreat cabin, which was like a hobbit hut inside a mountain, and all these fireworks were going off. I didn't know that Germans did fireworks on New Year's, but so I was going to India to film a documentary on the 2013 Maha Kumbh Mela. Yeah.
Talk to us about what happened at your first Kumbh and how many Kumbhs you have attended so far, and why do you keep coming back for the Kumbh?
It's a hard question to answer, only because it's not a black and white answer. It's me, the person that I am, beyond names. I have knowings that I'm supposed to do certain things. It's kind of what has led my whole entire life. And when I got off the plane in India, first of all, we landed in Delhi, but we didn't leave the airport. So we just slept and waited for our morning flight and then went to Patna. This is important to my story because when we got off the flight in Patna, we got a car. My friend Christian had organized a car, and we get in the car at the airport. You don't see much, but immediately we're in villages. You're just going through villages. We were on our way down to Bodh Gaya. And the smell to this day, when I smell it, I smelt it the other day here in America. It was the smell of burning wood, but like over millennia. And the first thing I thought was, I don't want to go home. Like, I don't want to go anywhere else. It instigated a remembering inside of that is just what happens. So while we were driving to Bodh Gaya, I hadn't been to India before, but we'd pull over at like a tree with a shrine, and I'd meditate or pray. And little did I know they were everywhere. So I was like, I'm in my perfect place because I am a meditator. I pray a lot. I just connect to source. For me, it was my insides were now on my outsides. Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember you also told me that Shiva took over. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry. Because we talked before. All right. So that was 2013. So when I got out of my retreat, I told Christian, the man who was taking me to India to do this documentary, I told him, I want to go on the Buddhist pilgrimage. And he said, well, I want to go on the Buddhist pilgrimage too. I want to go wherever you want to go. So that's why we started in Patna. So we went down to Bodh Gaya. So remember, I was a Buddhist teacher. So both Christian and I had very life-changing experiences in the Dungeshwari hills in the cave where Siddhartha Gautama was meditating before his enlightenment under the Bodhi tree.
Wow.
There was many years before his enlightenment. And we were very silent with each other at that time. So we didn't even check in about it until days later. I remember we were having tukpa, which is a Tibetan soup, at a Tibetan cafe. And we just started talking about it. So that led to future endeavors in India, which was me taking people on pilgrimages. It didn't just start overnight, but the seed for it was like planted in that moment, which is why I kept coming back to India. But I would only come back to India if I had a knowing or a feeling or an impetus. And I can tell you when that did and how it's morphed and changed. It's a lot. But we finally make our way down to the Maha Kumbh Mela, and I'm there kind of working. But when we got there, it was so dramatic for me and my insides, and also for him, that it was hard for me to pick up a camera and be on the backside of a camera. It was emotional. I'm getting emotional now. And I had to sit him down and say, Christian, I don't know if I can do this. And he looked at me and he said, I don't want to do it. He said, I think that my desire to do a documentary was the impetus to get us here, but I should just experience it. Yeah, so I was so relieved and I could relax, and then we could experience the Kumbh Mela, the Maha Kumbh. And I really didn't know that much about it. I knew the basics. So I just really like this conversation. I just was in the flow, which is the nature of who I am. And I didn't really have any Baba experiences. I didn't sit with Babas. It was really my experience. I wasn't a spectator. I was an experiencer. And I met a lot of transcendental meditators from the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi lineage, including Prudence Bruns, whose maiden name is Pharaoh, and she's the woman that John Lennon wrote the song Dear Prudence about, which is about her meditating, and John Lennon wanting her to come out and play with everybody because they were singing music. If you ever go to Rishikesh, and you go to the Beatles ashram, it's really the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi ashram, but it's famous because of the Beatles. Well, when you look at those round meditation spots, she was meditating in there. They all were, but they were like playing music and, having fun. They were young people in India in the 70s or 60s or whenever it was. And she was a daughter of Hollywood director and a Hollywood actress, and she had no, desire to be in normal life. So she just kept meditating. So her and I really connected, and it was interesting to meet somebody who was in her 70s and met her spiritual path so early on, and yet still was maintaining and so humble. Even though this massive thing happened, a song that is incredibly popular by one of the most prolific popular bands of all time, the Beatles, she's still incredibly humble, grounded. She initiated me into TM. And she brought me in to the unveiling of one of the temples. And it was just, so that was part of my experience at the Maha Kumbh Mela in 2013. But really, in Ma Ganga was the most prolific, just being with everybody and being with people, that's where I shine. I don't want to I don't want to talk about it. I want to be it. So that's who I am in the Kumbh Mela. That's why that seed got planted later on, because my home base was Kathmandu for a long time, because my Buddhist pilgrimages would end in Nepal, because the Buddha was technically born in what is now Nepal. And so I'd take all my clients to Kathmandu. And if you've ever been to Kathmandu, it's
No, I haven't.
awesome.
Yeah.
Grown a lot over the years. This is back in 2013, but I love the mountains, and it's easier to get to the mountains from Kathmandu. It's just all more contained place, and the weather is quite temperate in Nepal, so not as hot and all over the place. But in 2016, I got the call to go. I was in a cafe with my friend Simone from Belgium, and we were having a very nice coffee. And this person came up to us that we both knew from France, and he just started talking to us about this person and how energetic she was. And this was in Varanasi, where I've been many, many times, Kashi, the ancient city of Kashi. And I remember the knowing happened, but I didn't say anything. And he was mostly talking to Simone, because Simone was going back to India. I was not. I was grounded in Kathmandu until my next tour. But I got back to my apartment. Simone was living with me at the time. And I said, would you mind if I came with you to Kashi, to Varanasi? And he was like, of course not. So like the next day or two or three, it was like within the next day or two, I'd packed up a bag and took off with him. And we did it. Oh my gosh. We did a direct bus from Kathmandu
Wow.
to Varanasi. And okay, it's not bad, but because we bought our tickets last minute, we got the last two tickets, and they were at the very back of the bus. Let me tell you, don't take the trip if you're at the back of the bus, if you're going on a 14-hour trip. It was awful, but we got there. And one of my main guides picked us up at where the bus stop was. And I remember it was, oh my gosh, you can't plan this stuff. It was just at Holi time, and it was my guide's birthday. And he was so happy to see me and meet Simone, and he had planned this big thing. And that was the first time I'd ever experienced Holi at that level. And it was crazy, and it was so fun that it will never be matched. It will never be matched, because that was so great. It was perfect. And I just indulged in all the activities, and it was amazing. But when I got to Kashi, which is the seat of Shiva, there's a lot of seats of Shiva, but this Varanasi Kashi is a very Shiva centric, very powerful
uh,
Shiva energy.
uh, uh, uh,
And again, Simone and I were sitting in a cafe now in Kashi, and a woman came up to me out of nowhere, and a very unique woman. She was an African American woman, and she just came right up to me and she said, "Are you going to the Kumbh Mela in Ujjain?" And I looked at her and I said, "I am now." Like, when something Shakti comes and tells you, she didn't tell me, she asked me, but I was like, it's on.
uh,
Going to Ujjain, let's go. And it wasn't right away, it was in some time. But
yeah.
I ended up also then going to the Ujjain Kumbh Mela. And that's when the shift really went from Buddha to Shiva. So
Wow.
you can't just get one direct story. It's like
Yeah. Yeah.
that piece where I went just on a whim from Kathmandu to Kashi, and I left all my stuff in Kathmandu because that was my home base. So I just took like a small bag. I went back to Kathmandu after like a month or two. When you're a traveler, you don't know time. If I have a tour, I know I have to be here on that day. And then I'm doing the rest from my phone, from a cafe. So, yeah. So after that, it was
Beautiful.
at the Kumbh Mela in Ujjain where I wouldn't say it's where Jwala Bharti was born.
Wow.
Yeah.
Which year was
Jwala
this?
Bharti was born in Ujjain. But we're
Which
just
year was this?
2016.
Okay. This is the Ardh Kumbh Mela.
Yeah, Ujjain does it only happen because the next one is in 2028.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
No,
Yeah.
The Ardh Kumbh is where I got my jatas in Prayagraj. So many things have happened over the years. I mean, it used to be called Allahabad. When I went
Yeah.
to the Kumbh Mela, Maha Kumbh in 2013, it was called Allahabad. Then
Okay.
in 2019, I think it was Prayagraj by then, but really
Yeah.
by the Maha Kumbh, it was fully.
Have you noticed how after every Kumbh is there sort of and some difference happening after every Kumbh? How does that experience, how is your experience on that?
Yeah, it's interesting. The thing that is very
You
interesting.
never had to verbalize that before. Someone had to come and ask you
Yeah,
that.
people don't because they don't even know to ask it, to be fair.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't realize this until recently because I'm so social and I'm outgoing, but I'm
Mm,
also a recluse. I also spend that people, because I've been traveling for 35, 40 years of my life, my mother used to say, I never write Julie's address in pen. I always pencil so that she can erase it and add the new one because I'm always moving around. So, because that's not what most people are used to, they don't understand my life. They don't understand my lifestyle. A lot of people don't travel so extensively like I have. So, it's hard. They don't understand to know the questions to ask. Even in India, to be fair, people don't
mm,
want to know about my life. They don't ask me these
mm,
questions. So, I would turn it on you and say,
mm,
you, sir, are a very unique person for being somebody from India. And I know a little bit about your story, so it makes sense to me
mm,
because, like me, you have also followed your calling, followed your
mm.
heart, made some very bold moves that other people would be like, where you give up everything and you just follow that knowing. Yeah. Yeah. So I forget your
Yeah.
question, but you can ask it again. It was,
No, I'll bring that up again. But since you're talking about the flow, coming from the US and experiencing India, I'm sure you learned the teachings, you read a lot and all that, but still experiencing the Indian way of life and everything and experiencing Shiva. How did the braids happen? That
the
requires a total surrender. Yeah, the jeta.
The jatas. Okay, so the jatas happened at the 2019 Ardh Kumbh in Prayagraj. So I've had many gurus. I have had many teachers, from Native American teachers to Christian teachers to yoga, Buddhist, Hindu, and then, of course, random people I meet on the street because I see everybody as a teacher. So there is somebody in India that I call Guruji. We have a very, very unique connection. I met him at the 2016 Ujjain Kumbh. His name is Sri Digambar Kushal Bharti Maharaj. And when I met him and his best friend, who was Sri Digambar Harigiri Maharaj, I had a very, very intense relationship with Harigiri Maharaj. It was a soulmate connection. We were like best friends. I felt like I knew him my whole life. Like we were like little kids. We were like two little, like I felt like we were like 6-year-olds who met like
Mm.
their best friend.
Wow.
Yeah. So that 2016 Kumbh, I knew nothing about Hinduism. I was a yogi already, but from the Buddhist tradition. Even though my Buddhist teachers were yogis, that's how I became a Buddhist, was because my yoga teachers were Buddhists. So they were learned in Sanskrit. They taught me Sanskrit. So they were learned in it, but they were teaching it from a Buddhist perspective. So when I got to the 2016 Kumbh Mela, that was when Hinduism smacked me in the face. And it really had to do with this connection that I had with Sri Digambar Harigiri Maharaj. But not knowing anything and them there's such a story about how I came to live with the Naga Sadhus at that Kumbh Mela. So this would not have happened had they not taken me in. So I'm just going to back it up. When that woman came up to me at the cafe in Kashi, Varanasi, and I knew I was going to the Ujjain Kumbh. Long story short, but Simone, who was at the cafe with me, he came with me. So we traveled there together. And the first day we just got a hotel, took showers, it was very hot. We were getting our bearings. Then we were had very small bags and we're just like gonna wing it. So it was very hot. We went in to the Shipra River. We did our prayers. We made our offerings and we were just wandering around, right? So we were talking to people. And then we decided at one point, let's go to the ashram where that woman was that met us at the cafe. So we went to her ashram, and I'm not going to name names or anything like that, but it was not a positive experience. But it catalysted everything else that happened from there. So we go in there to this one ashram where they were extremely intense, negative, tried to pick a fight with us. Like it was weird. And they wanted 5,000 US dollars. It was crazy. And then when we finally got out of there, I was free. I felt like I'd been, because they wouldn't let us go for a while. And all of a sudden I was like, free. I can do whatever I want. Like I'm leaving. And so we left. And then I was like letting the love of all the devotees like wipe away all the ick off of me and open my heart. Because if you've been to a Kumbh Mela, you know that it is just love. It's just radiating love because people believe that when they bathe in the rivers, they are cleansing their karma. That is a big deal. And so I was letting all the love of the devotees and everybody was smiling and they were playing with each other and cotton candy and Ferris wheels and Babas. It was a lot more gentle than Prayagraj in 2013. It's much smaller. And, Babas are waving and I was just like, this is great. I'm not taking any of that with me. What just happened. I leave it there. I bless you. I pray for you. I wish you the best. Like, honestly, I felt that for them. There was obviously some problems internally there. And as we're walking, I get this hit. Like I see something, I feel something, and I say, Simone, stop. I said, do you feel this positive energy? I just want to sit in it for a minute because I could see this lotus flower. It was this lotus flower. To me, it was giant and it was floating and I could just feel the energy of it just bathing me. And I just felt like I was connecting with Ma, And all of a sudden I hear, hello. I go, me? You come. And so me and Simone go in and we sit down, and within a minute there's a chai. They're like, water, what do you need?
Yeah.
It was so cool. Like the fan was going on us and it was getting late actually. And we were like, where are we going to sleep? And they were like, oh, we didn't say anything. They're like, what do you need? You can sleep here. You can eat here. You can live here, whatever. We're here for you. And
Nice. Wow.
was Digambar Kushal Bharti Maharaj.
Wow. Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
Jai ho.
Very nice. Very nice.
I
Wow. Wow.
rescued. It was a
Om Nam.
Om Namo Narayan. So we hung out that whole night and we slept right there in the temple with him. And then the next day they put us in another yurt. I don't remember how it went, but it was so hot and I have fair skin. I just could not go in the sun the next day. So I stayed in the shade and Simone really wanted to go into the river. And I said, I need to take a break today. I'm just going to sit in the shade. Maybe later today, when it's cooler out, I'll go down to the river. It was blazing. And Simone goes, okay. And he just took his little bag and he took off. And like, I don't know how many hours later, I get a phone call or a text saying, I'm on a bus going back to Dehradun. So there was a girl in Dehradun and he was like, you know what? I'm done. I was done. And he just felt it. I think he just kept walking, saw a bus, jumped on it and was like, I'm out of here. But as travelers know, you are not bound to each other at all.
Yes.
At all.
Yes.
You come and go in each other's lives. Happening was not unusual to me. He's a young
What connection has to be done was done.
that
And they moved.
fine with me. I just said, oh yeah, I think I'm going to stay here for a while. He said, yeah, I think you should. I feel that for you.
Wow.
And I was like, yeah.
Wow.
So imagine everyone at the camp is like, where's Simone? Where's Simone? Where's Simone? I'm like, he's in Dehradun. He went to Dehradun. What? He left you here by yourself? Oh my God. Now, mind you, back then there was a very big language gap. What I learned was Sri Digambar Kushal Bharti Maharaj used all of his English on me that day. I thought he spoke English. I was so wrong. Or if he does, he just chooses not to. We've taught each other over the years, so now it's a lot different. But still, his English is very bad. And so I was there at the camp alone as a female. Now, for me as a traveler, not a big deal. I'm alone all the time. A female traveler. I travel solo my entire adult life.
Yeah.
But they were very concerned. And so obviously I was safe while I was there, but they were very concerned about my safety. So they put me in the Baba tent. Now I know nothing. I'm a practitioner already. Like I've been traveling. I'm from America. Males and females, we like mix all the time.
Wow.
Now I look back on that and I think, oh my goodness, but I get it. They didn't want me just out floating around because, oh my God, it was mostly men. There were women there, obviously, but they needed to keep me close and safe. Yeah. Because otherwise I was the only foreigner there. There were no other foreigners. At one point, foreigners were coming by and then they'd call me over to talk to them. But they were coming from a lot of them were coming from the camp that gave me a hard time. And so that was interesting because it caused a lot of debate. And Guruji, my Guruji, Kushal Bharti Ji Maharaj, he does not like that guru. And so I gave him that proof because it was very negative. And it was just my experience, my karma, whatever. But so I don't have any hard feelings. There's a full circle here, which is interesting. So there were foreigners just straggling by from that camp, but not really. The Ujjain Kumbh is much smaller. But that's how I met the Naga Sadhus, and I lived with them very intimately. And me and Harigiri had this very deep, soulful connection. And after it was over, I went with them and traveled with them for quite a while until we ended up at Kushal Bharti Ji Maharaj's ashram. in Rajasthan. So when people ask me, where do you live in India? I always say, well, my home is in Rajasthan because
Wow.
that's where my family is. They're Rajasthan. All of a sudden, I was alone. Like there were no tour, like the Mela was over. The last Shahi Snan was done. And I was like, where is everybody? And I went into this one hut. They were made out of straw. I like opened the door. And when I opened the door, it was no joke. Kushal Bharti goes, Jwala, just like that. And what I realized in that moment is they were talking about what my name was because they called me
Wow.
things over the month or two I was there. They had funny names for me. They had names, and Jwala was one of the many. But when we opened the door and he said Jwala, and everybody erupted, I was like, the name Jwala, like enter my body, meant at the time, and it means it's a flame, a natural flame that comes from the earth. It's not man-made. It means fire. It's got a lot of fiery energy. And I'm very fiery. So, that looking back at that time, it was very intense. It was hard on me. And it was also very joyful and funny because we have a lot of stories nowadays. It's so funny. But we get back to the ashram in Rajasthan and then everybody starts to disperse, right? So I don't know anything, right? I only know from living so intensely with everybody. And now they're all leaving. And I'm like, oh my God, what's happening? That was probably one of the hardest things that I've ever had to do is actually say goodbye to Harigiri. Like that was one of the harder things. And just a side note, he passed away not like a year later. And that was one of the hardest things I've ever had to deal with is his loss. Yeah, we had a real soul connection.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah,
And
so
you also stayed for extended period of time with these Naga Sadhus.
yeah, because
For
wait,
yeah.
ask your
For
question.
so for someone who is coming from who is trying to navigate their real Naga Sadhu, like you said, you've gone through the bad experience, you landed with Kushal Bharti Maharaj, and everything just fell in place for you after that, right? Now it is not possible for everyone to uncover. A lot of people have this wanting to find their guru. How do you tell them? What do you suggest them to navigate? How to navigate in India when they have this longing of finding a guru?
First of all, I would say spend a lot of time asking yourself very deep questions alone for a long time. And then don't worry about it because that guru will come in many forms. And it doesn't need to be somebody dressed in orange or in, naked or in India, because that can be quite dangerous. When you are seeking something, you are telling yourself that you don't have it. And so then you are kind of open to anything. And there are a lot of fake gurus. And when you are a foreigner in India, you are a target. And even all these years later, with my experience, I mean, you've heard some I have so much intense, deep experiences, and I have to be on my toes because no matter what, somebody's going to send me a WhatsApp and ask for money. It happens all the time. And if I have money, I'm happy to give it. But just because I'm an American doesn't mean I'm rich, right? So if you're looking for your guru, you have to know that the original guru is within you. God lives within you. So if you want it in an external teacher, you are reflecting that externally. You are projecting that on to other people. Now, can people teach you techniques and tools? Absolutely. 100%. But if you're going to take a guru, you have to know that that person is not perfect. They're only reflecting as much as you will allow them to reflect. And to be ready for a guru, I mean, you have to really have your intention set because it is not easy. And anyone who's ever had a guru is going to tell you that. It's not easy to this day. I've had many gurus. And when I say many, I mean like maybe this many. Like somebody who I call Lamaji or Guruji in like teacher way. And it is a very, very intense relationship that is reflecting for you here. So you can't keep putting it externally. You have to be willing to take responsibility for yourself, even when the ship sinks, because that's happened in my communities. The ship has sank, and I wouldn't have said it like that. I would have said that hits the fan, but because humans do human things. And yeah, and you have to
Yeah.
be very, very careful. Very careful. I could write a book about all of the things I have seen in India. It's just a marketplace for making money, with foreigners. I mean, you can see it happen in the West. Indians came to America with their grift. They did the teachings that their teacher taught them, but then they exploited all, the people around them. I mean, it happens in every country. It happens everywhere. It's not exclusive. It happens in Christianity, in Buddhism, it happens everywhere. But
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
why I like to remind people, and that's how I teach. I teach
Yeah.
that the
Yeah.
guru is within, because none of
Yeah.
the experiences I had were responsible. Nobody else is responsible for them. And
Yeah.
like you asked
Yeah.
me earlier, like after the Kumbh Mela, like what happened? You know, it's hard to say, life is still happening. So, and then how did the jatas come along? I mean, in 2019, I went to the Ardh Kumbh in Prayagraj, and this is where that past story goes full circle. I'm at the camp with Guruji, and these 5 people come to our camp they were foreigners with very long, beautiful jatas. And they were tightening all the jatas. The one guy's a jata maker, and he's tightening all the babas, my guru, everybody. And we're just sitting around, they're smoking, chilling, whatever, and he's tightening. And then I remember his girlfriend looks at me, and she had long, beautiful jatas. And I know I say it wrong. Jata, jata. And she said, Jwala, are you going to get jatas? And I said, Guru. And I said, Guru. I say, jatas? And he's like, yes, Jwala, Jwala. And so it took him like 3 or 4 days to like finish them. But it was crazy because there was only like one small spot here that was left to do. So they were done. I have pictures of this. And it was one of the Shahi Snans. I think it was the last one. And
Wow.
so because I'm with the Naga Sadhus, I'm in the parade. If you want the procession that goes down
Yeah. Yeah.
to the river.
Yeah.
And this is the craziest story. And I have pictures. If you go to my Instagram, you can see it. You have to scroll down. You see a lot if you go to my Instagram.
Sure.
But so we go in the procession. At this point, I had 2 or 3 clients with me. And one of them was like in her 70s. So I'm like being very careful for her because it's very crowded. But it was so beautiful. And God, I mean, if you don't believe God exists, I mean, it couldn't have gone on this perfectly without a divine intervention. And when I have clients, I'm very keen. I'm like an eagle. Like I can see everything, and I'm making plot points, and I've been to the Kumbh. I know how this goes. So I'm looking ahead, and I see, gosh, that's where I'm going to put her and the other 2, because there were these sandbags, and I made a whole plan, and it executed perfectly. And after I got all the clients set up on the sandbags, so they had a view, they had great seats, I like took off my clothes so that I had my cloth to go into the river for my sacred bath. And one of my guru's disciples that I'd known from Ujjain all the way back to Ujjain, who's a little crazy, he grabs me by the wrist and he pulls me and he says, Jwala, come, Jwala, come. And I could not get my wrist away from him. So Jwala, come. And he's just pushing me. So I say, okay, you guys are okay. They're like, yeah, Jwala, we're good. And he pulls me all the way to the Sangam. Now, all of the Naranjaniyakara Naga Sadhus, if people out there don't know, on different days at different baths, the different Naga Sadhus, they go in to the water and they cleanse the water with their jatas. And that's why you get those big pictures with the sweeping water with the jatas. And he drags me to the front with all the male Naga Sadhus. And I am panicking because I've been in India a long time. Like the men and women are separated and the men go first and then the women. And I'm in a foreign country. Yeah. I'm not trying to make waves in a foreign country. Yeah. Like this is the way they do it. This is the way I do it, right? If it was the US, okay, maybe I'd say something, obviously. But I'm in the front row and I'm like, he's still not letting go. And I just had to let go. So you asked me this question about what happens after going in. Well, mine happened before going in. So in America, there's this saying, I had a come to Jesus moment. Well, I had a come to Shiva moment. I literally was like, Shiva, if this is what you want, I surrender. I surrender to you. I am not going to be stressed out anymore. I accept everything that is meant to be from this moment forward. I'm not going to fight it. And I just took a deep breath and I just watched and I just experienced. I got in my body and I stayed present. And the next thing I knew, this beautiful Naga Sadhu from the Naranjani Agara got on the conch shell. He walked back and forth in front of all the sadhus inside the Sangam, which is where the three rivers meet, the Ganga, the Yamuna, and the Saraswati. The Ganga, the Yamuna, and the Saraswati rivers all converge. It's the Triveni Sangam. And he walks, they say these prayers, and then he blows the conch. And then I know what's going to happen next. So I happen to look over. And so all the men go forward in, and I just went a little to the left. It was crazy because I was just right on the outskirts of the mayhem. And then everybody's doing their prayers and cleansing the water. And then I hear my name. I think he called me Julie at that because he didn't know my name. Whatever, Jwala, Julie, whatever. And Jwala. And I look over and it's my friend. And he says, look. And it was exactly where the waters were pushing into each other. And nobody was there. So I went and I said my prayers and I was all alone except for like this one couple that was a little bit to my left. And I just submerged myself in the water and did my prayers. And then when I was ready, like I just turned around and to walk away. And this Baba, this old little Baba, grabs me by the wrist again. And everybody's chanting, Hara Hara Mahadev, Hara Hara Mahadev. So he grabs my wrist and he holds it up and he's like, Hara Hara Mahadev. Again, forced to surrender. Okay, Shiva. Hara Hara Mahadev, Hara Mahadev. This went on and on again. He would not let go. And I was just surrendered. And then he pulled me down into the river and then positioned himself. I don't know how this all happened. It happened within a second. Laid himself on my lap, put my hand on his face, and he kept his Dharmaru up in the air. So the whole time he's ringing his Dharmaru, is the drum. I mean, this is an initiation of the jatas, right? So I just again surrender. I'm full present. Clearly, this is Shiva Shakti. This is masculine and feminine all happening. And finally, he like lets me up, but like the energy gently removes. And then we both kind of stand up and it's still Hara Hara Mahadev. And I turn around and there must have been 200 photographers staring at me. Mataji, Mataji, Mata, like, what do you do? And I was like, wow. And I remember I caught the eye of one photographer and I just held his gaze because like he was staring at my eyes and I was just kind of grounded me. And I've never forgotten that energy because it's very intense and the sun is rising. And literally in the Triveni Sangam, where for thousands of years people have been coming at this time, at this day, when the stars are in the right spot at the right time. And I was initiated, and I just got my jatas, and yeah, so they're very powerful, and I do not take them for granted, although they have a life of their own. And that is how I received
The jatas.
the
Wow,
jatas.
very nice, very
To
nice.
me,
Thank you for sharing. This must have been a very deep experience for yourself. So, thank you for sharing it with us.
now, if you scroll my Instagram, you will see photos.
Yes, sure, sure. I'll tag your Instagram anyway on the blogs, on the profile, so people also will get to see it.
It's
You know.
hilarious. I mean, now in retrospect, I'm like,
I have two quick questions for you because we still have 4 more minutes for the podcast to end. So, you've spent 13 years in India. What is the version of India that most Western travelers never find because they don't know how to navigate India? So, what mindset do people need to have to come to India, and what would it take for them to find?
if you feel called to go to India, then I always ask my clients, why do you want to go? It helps them get deeper, because if you go just to go, then India is everything. It's going to overwhelm you. So I had a point of entry with the Buddhist pilgrimage and the Maha Kumbh. Now, even if you don't do that one thing, it will lead you in that direction. Because when you get to India, it's overwhelming. Now it's a little different than it was in 2013. I mean, I can take an Uber, so it's easier. So I don't have to get scammed or, have to converse with the tuk-tuk driver. But just let everything you think you know go with an intention. Like, life is much easier when you have intentions. And then let everything else go and let it lead you. But also stay diligent and aware and awake. Know that you are a foreigner in a foreign land, and that you are different, and that they have been oppressed for many hundreds of years. And there is still a lot of subconscious beliefs about that time for them. But the people are so wonderful and so generous with foreigners that, be careful, but also be open. To go on your way, you have to be open. And I would say, don't rely on the internet so much. Like, read a travel book so you can just see about the places that are in India, because then you are going to have a pull towards a certain area. Like, maybe you're feeling more pulled to the south, or you're pulled to the mid or to the north, and India is a big country, as we know. And so and then of course, trains are not always on time. I'll tell you, buses are much, much more on time.
We
But
have changed that now. Our trains are equally on time these days.
really? Oh. What I like about buses, though, is you don't have to walk onto the platform.
That's how it was, but now our trains have improved as well.
Yeah. I've traveled by every route possible. It's
I'm
incredible how
sure.
much I have seen
I'm
India.
sure.
But
Jwala, I must tell you this. I have spoken to at least 130 odd foreigners in my after starting Smukti, like on podcast calls and so on. But I have always run through all my questions. This is the first time I haven't gone beyond 2, 3 questions, because there is so much and I am so engrossed in all the conversations that you are bringing up, and I'm so deep into it and I can't run through my questions at all. And I realized basically in this podcast I have asked you questions which I want to know. I still haven't gotten to the real podcast questions, I would say. you know but I'm so glad that we met today and we got to record this session. I'm really looking forward to doing more sessions with you. And personally, for me, when you're in India next time, I really want to come and meet you in person as well, and listen to, of course, more stories. And I'm sure since you're coming to Rajasthan, Kushal Bharti, did you get a chance to see the photos that I shared with you?
yes, oh my gosh,
Yeah,
I think Ashok Bharti was there, Alok Bharti, no,
Yeah,
Alok Giri.
uh,
And
Alagiri. Yeah,
oh my gosh, I couldn't believe it. Those are all my people.
yeah,
That was so
yeah.
interesting. If you tell them Jwala Bharti, they're going to say, oh, I know Jwala Bharti. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's what when you spoke about initiation, and when I think of my initiation into Smukti, it is the same. It is the same set of people who initiated me into taking travelers around. That happened because I took them around first in Kanyakumari.
And also about
So
taking people around India. I don't think that you can force that. Like that's something India like initiates you into. So it's something very
yeah,
sacred
yeah,
to me also.
yeah. So
Yeah. So I feel very honored. And India is my mother, she's the mother. And I know you have an intention for the podcast, but
yeah, yeah.
it's hard for me I saw your questions, but because it's not a straight.
I wanted you from your heart, like this is what happened today, and I'm so glad we did this. That is why I said I will meet you because I know I'll spend 3-4 days just sitting around you, listening to your stories here and there. And I'm sure since you're visiting Rajasthan, Kushal Bharti Bapa, I'll also, time it along because I also wanted to meet them after the trip. I haven't met them yet. So I would also really cherish an opportunity just to be around with them because they also have done a lot of playful things with me, which I kind of like, it's quite a time just sitting with those babas, magical moments, and to meet you with that same coincidence, I think is just wonderful. That again shows how the life is, how the journey is for all of us.
Yes, amazing. Yeah,
Super. You can say a closing note, and for people who are traveling to India, you can give a closing note, and we'll end it there.
a closing note for people. Okay. If you feel the call to go to India, I highly recommend it. You will not be disappointed. It is a very sacred land. And as long as you're not comparing it to anything else and you just go and you allow yourself to be there and be with her, with Ma India, Ma Bahat, the land. And again, the people and the food and everything is spicy and amazing. But yeah, I encourage you to go. Don't be afraid. And yeah, use Smukti for your travels. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Also
Thank you.
help.
Har Har Mahadev.
It is helpful to have a guide. That's why I do it because I take them to off places. Spend so much time there. I take them to places that are not, some are on the beaten path, but it's my experience because how else are you going to get the India experience and not just the tourist experience? So, yeah, traveling in India is amazing. Amazing. Even I still have so many more places that I want to go and see.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
So
The
many.
next time you come south to Kanyakumari, I'll take you around
I would love that. I can't wait. Let's do it.
for sure. Because we'll do the same route I took the Baba say. So, you
Oh,
get to
I
see
would
what they
love
all saw as
that.
well.
That would be
Super.
amazing. Yeah.
Nice. Thank you so much, Jwala, for joining the call today. It was really a pleasure talking to you. And I'm looking forward to seeing you soon. Har Har Mahadev.
Hara Hara Mahadev.